And thank you all for coming. I'll start off with that. Plus, you get farther away from the road noise. That's another benefit. Our handy IT, thank you. Much appreciated. So my name is Lachlan Francis. I'm the chair of the Windham County Democratic Committee. I'm going to make some... Thank you. I'm going to make some brief remarks here, and then we've got a speaker's order that we'll get into, and we're all going to keep it brief because I promised the church we'd get out of here by dark. So that's my commitment to everyone. And in fact, I pledged dark tonight, and I even said I'd try to beat dark by 15 or 20 minutes. So pray for me. I wanted to start off to that point by thanking the Centre Congregational Church for hosting us. And not just for hosting us alone today, but also hosting all kinds of solidarity work that's been going on in our community, from protest potlucks to events like this one. So thank you very much to the Centre Congregational Church for having us. And I also want to recognize our many legislators here today: Emily Kornheiser, Molly Burke, Mike Rowicki, Ian Goodnow, Tristan Tolino, former legislator, but we'll still embarrass him and thank him for all his work. Thank you, Tristan. And if I missed any, I apologize, but I don't think I did. So anyways, thank you all for coming. I'll say briefly, St. Patrick's Day is of course, known as an Irish holiday, and they sent the weather and everything for us today, so that's always much appreciated. But my father came to the United States from Australia. His parents from Scotland and Ireland to Australia, and it's like for so many families, an example of the Irish diaspora all around the world, and especially here in Vermont. As you may know, 1 in 6 Vermonters is of Irish descent. That makes us the 4th most Irish state in the country, and we've seen their impact all over this state, from the quarry mines in Barrie and in Rutland to our dairy farms and to our elected leaders, from Senator Patrick Leahy, Senator Peter Welch, Governor Tom Salmon from right up the road in Rockingham, who recently passed. So we've seen so many ways through the Irish example of how immigrants make our community stronger, they make our state stronger. But today we've got an administration in Washington that is not so welcome to immigrants, and they want to turn back time and go to an era where folks are judged by the nation that they're coming from, by the faith that they practice, and that those metrics should determine who's welcome in our community. And one thing that makes me proud to have grown up in Windham County is we don't stand for that here. Immigrants are welcome in Windham County. And especially in the Democratic Party, not always, but many of our greatest Irish American leaders have known that and stood for that. It took a long time for Irish Americans to move past the signs of Irish need not apply, but that there's a calling and an obligation for folks of Irish descent or of other immigrant communities to hold the door open for the next generation, for the next community that's trying to come to our country and to access the American dream that many Irish and American families have been able to access, and that, of course, we need to make stronger and to expand for all. Thank you. And I see the sign right here, Free Mahmoud Khalil. It's been a particularly scary time these last few weeks with the targeted deportations and illegal, unconstitutional actions that the Trump administration is taking. So really thanks to all of you for coming out and saying that's not the leadership we want here in Brattleboro or Windham County. So thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to move on to Mike Rowicki, who's got a few comments and I believe a song for us. And then we'll go from there. Oh, I'll hold it. I got a big job.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
You need a mic.
You need the mic. Sorry. Hi there, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, thank you. My name's Mike Rowicki, and I'm here as a Democrat, as an elected public servant, and as Lachlan shared, it's a good day to remember most of us are immigrants.
Yay!
All four of my grandparents came from Poland, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them having the courage to get on that boat and come across. My children are half Irish, and I can't take any credit for that. But it certainly held up the reality of it. Last year they took their mother to Ireland to find some of their roots. And it was a reminder of, as Lachlan said, when many of the Irish first came in those waves and looked for work, the sign was up, "No Irish need apply." But that's what inspired me to write this song. When I'm down to Castletown Barra, sailing leaving tide, too many mouths to feed at home, caused us to catch that ride. Steamship to America, packed us in like fishing tin, and we prayed that a better life for us all would soon begin. When we got there, the sign said no Irish need apply. And when we got there, the words on the sign, they made me cry. And when we got there, I vowed no one should see such signs. Come from far away to see no Irish need apply. To come from far away to see no Irish need apply. And now we've been here many years, no more shall we roam. Many come to our shores to find a better home. I hope we all recall not long ago that was us there, coming here like those today to find a place to live. Let's hope they don't find a sign says no immigrants here. Let's hope they don't find a sign says no refugees here. Let's hope they don't find a sign says no strangers allowed. For our faith tells us to welcome strangers, always strangers in the crowd. When we got here, that sign said no Irish need apply. And when we got here, the sign said, oh, that day we cried. When we got here, I vowed no one should see such signs. To come from far away to see no Irish need apply. To come from here to see the sign said no Irish need apply.
Gotta check who's next. Very important. All right. Next is Liz McLaughlin, who's on the select board and vice chair of the Windham Dems, and also very Irish, which I'm sure she'll tell you all.
I won't tell you about the Italian part, that's
Yeah,
for
we'll
another
do
day. So, the Irish, we're all here. We're here because of suffering and poverty and hunger. And we found a home here. And I think it would be nice for us to recognize that the immigrants today are coming for the very same reasons. Oppression, hunger. You can't hear me? Sorry. Is that better?
There you go. That's
The people who we're here today to support are immigrants. The country values immigrants. Our economy needs immigrants. And they need us and we need them. And the President of the United States is dehumanizing them. And in our name. And we have to stop the ability for them to use our name in this way that we don't accept. And I think it's also important to recognize, like this sign over here, who will they come for next? And oddly, it's Canadians. And, you know, we can't let the dehumanization spread to Canada in the same way that Vladimir Putin dehumanizes the Ukraine. And so we have to see that for what it is, see these tactics for what they are, and stop othering one another, because we need immigrants and immigrants need us. Thank you.
So up next, Ian Heffley. Ian is another Windham County Dems member from Vernon. And Ian also formerly worked at ECDC, and looking forward to his comments. Thank you, Ian.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Yeah. All right, I'm not usually the quiet one in the bunch. So, again, my name's Ian Heffley, and until about 2 months ago, I was the Community Engagement Manager for the Refugee Resettlement Agency here in town. It was a place where I felt like I could do what I wanted to do all my life. Pull together Southern Vermont and the international community, because that is something that is very special about this corner of this brave little state. Now, it is St. Patrick's Day, and I was rehearsing in my head before I got up here that I was going to talk about my Irish ancestry, and I do have 50% Irish ancestry. I am the great-grandson of the first Irish Catholic police commissioner of New York City. His name was Edward Mulrooney. You can look that up. And he was the son of immigrants. I was my daughter's age and even younger when I was first exposed to immigrants in the town I grew up in, because my mother taught ESL. My brother is married to a Japanese immigrant. My nephew's father is a Haitian immigrant. So working with immigrants, as you can tell, it goes way back in my family. And I have been to Ireland a couple times and found some of my ancestry. But what I want to pull back here to Southern Vermont, there's an organization here founded in 1932 that used to live by the motto of, you learn to live together by living together. I live down in Vernon. I ran for town clerk in Vernon. I got 30% of the vote there, and you learn to live together by living together. So it heartens me every week, whether I can make it here or not, to see these happening. We've got to keep them going for the next 4 years, hopefully only the next 4 years. I urge you, really, when you see new Vermonters out there in the community, there are still about 150 who will be integrating into the community at some point here between Brattleboro and Bennington. I really urge you to reach out to them, make them feel welcome, make them feel that America still is the land that brought all of our ancestors who were immigrants here. Thank you.
All right. Up next, we've got Nikhil Goyal. And I'll let him mostly introduce himself. He's a sociologist, formerly was on the staff of Senator Bernie Sanders, and he's got much better things to say.
Thank you. Wishing everyone a very happy St. Patrick's Day. It is a real pleasure to be here. I want to first thank Lachlan for having me speak. My name is Nikhil Goyal. I want to share a few words about why the Irish people, its traditions, and its struggles for freedom and justice will always hold a dear place in my heart, and why it is our duty to defend our immigrant communities now more than ever. In 1950, the Irish Taoiseach, Eamon de Valera, was invited to celebrate the Declaration of India as a republic at an event in England. The Indian Association explained why it had chosen him, of all people, to speak. And they said the answer is, first, there is a bit of Irish in every heart, but with us Indians, there is more. We and the Irish had strong ties of friendship. We suffered under the same tyranny for many centuries. They had the black and tans. We had the massacre of Amritsar. They had De Valera and Casement and Macswiney. We had Gandhi and Nehru and Bose. It is not only for their smile and the shamrock we know Ireland. It is for the toughness of their leaders and for the rebellion in their hearts against all injustice and all inhumanity. The Irish struggle against British colonialism for Saoirse, freedom, is the Indian struggle against British colonialism for Azadi, freedom. Our fights are forever bound together. My grandfather, Mungal Sen Goyal, was a refugee. He was displaced during the British partition of India in August of 1947. Traveling by train from Lahore to India with his siblings and mother, they survived the violence between Hindus and Muslims, where 15 million people were forced to flee from their homes and 1 million were killed. My parents were able to immigrate to this country from India in the 1980s because of the civil rights movement. From the 1920s to 1965, the United States had racist nationality quotas that banned immigration from Asia and restricted immigration from Eastern and Southern Europe for the purpose of creating racial purity. In the 1960s, the civil rights movement forced our nation to undergo a second Reconstruction, where we struck down discrimination in employment, public accommodations, voting, housing, and, yes, immigration. In 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Hart-Celler Act, which opened the doors of America to tens of millions of people seeking a better life, including my parents. It allowed my parents to immigrate to this country, give birth to me, so I could be an American today. So I am forever in debt to our nation's ancestors for their courage, to the civil rights movement. And I have made it my personal responsibility to fight for immigrants, for the working class, for the most vulnerable among us. At this unprecedented moment in American history, we are being tested as Americans, as human beings, as people who believe in justice and humanity. We are being tested in the same way that Americans were tested when confronted with the horrors of slavery, of Jim Crow, of Japanese internment camps, the Holocaust, violence against civil rights protesters. We are being tested in the same way that the Irish and the Indians were tested when confronted with the atrocities of the British Empire. The question I ask myself, and I imagine many of you are asking the same, when your children, when your nieces and nephews, when your grandchildren ask you, what did you do when Donald Trump rounded up undocumented immigrants who live in our neighborhoods, who pay their taxes, who go to our schools, who care for our children, who pick our fruits and vegetables, who farm our land, who slaughter our meat, who produce our milk? what will you say? When they ask you, what did you do when Donald Trump kidnapped a permanent legal resident from his Columbia University apartment while his American citizen wife was 8 months pregnant? What will you say? When they ask you, what did you do when Donald Trump locked up families in abusive immigrant detention centers and shipped migrants to El Salvador and Guantanamo Bay, the site of one of the worst human rights catastrophes in world history? What will you say? Will you say that I went about my life business as usual? Or will you say that you raised your voice in favor of a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants and fought against these injustices? That you called on your state, local, and federal representatives, urging them to take action and stand with immigrants and speak out? That you stood with your immigrant neighbors? That you confronted xenophobia and racism in all parts of your life? These are the questions we must grapple with as Vermonters, as Americans, as citizens of our world. And we could all use a little bit of the courage that the Irish people have shown from time and time again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have one note that I neglected to make earlier, but good thing he's not here, so he didn't hear me neglect to do it, and now you can all tell him I did it. Sheriff Mark Anderson sent his regrets that he wasn't able to attend. He's just been back from travel out of state, and he's got a lot of work stuff going on, but he did want to make one thing abundantly clear, which is that the Windham County Sheriff's Office does not do and does not intend to do, and especially with some changes coming to the legislature, will not have the authority to do immigration enforcement, and that's exactly how he likes it. So thanks to Mark for passing along that comment. And up next, Jim Ramsey, who is the newly elected chairman of the Vermont Democratic Party as of about 10 days ago, and he hasn't changed his mind yet. So Jim, thank you for coming over the mountain from Bennington.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you. So, Lachlan wanted me to say that darkness is coming, so I should speak briefly and to the point, which I probably won't do. But let's start with, he called me about a week ago, and he asked me, am I Irish? I said, am I Irish? My grandfather came from County Kerry in 1908 to Washington, D.C., lived in a neighborhood, anyone knows D.C., the Irish there is a neighborhood called Swamp Poodle. It was not a favorable term, but that's where the Irish were, and they lived. And they came over, brothers and sisters, and he became a D.C. policeman. And he raised 3 children, including my mother. I grew up with his widow, Julia Mulvihill. His name was Thomas Scanlon. And in that neighborhood, the Swamp Poodle neighborhood, where the Irish lived, there was a Catholic high school named Gonzaga. So that is it's still there. That's where I went. My uncle went. My brother went. So I'm very much Irish. And as a wee lad, because I'm dating myself now, I remember watching John Fitzgerald Kennedy's inauguration. It was a very snowy day in Washington, D.C. It was very cold, much colder than our most current inauguration, which was held indoors. Kennedy was outdoors. But that, as a wee child, that was a coming of age for the Irish Americans, with John Kennedy becoming to the White House, and it really was a big moment for all of us. And we need to make sure that those moments and the American dream continues for all Americans and all immigrants. You can applaud on that. So, as my distinguished colleague Lachlan has mentioned, the last few weeks have been interesting for me. I guess I pissed enough people off and became chair of the Democratic Party in Vermont. And seriously, this weekend I had the opportunity to be in South Burlington with Treasurer Mike Pichek, Senator Peter Welch. They had a town hall this morning. I was in
Island Pond in Northeast Kingdom with Congresswoman Becca Ballant. And there's a lot of, as I'm quite sure this year, there's a lot of fear, anger, and anxiety out there with Vermonters and all Americans. And we're all trying to find community. And one of the things we are trying to do in the Democratic Party is we are opening our doors and we're trying to create those communities. So there's things they're saying, well, what can we do? How can we help? What action can we take? So I'm going to give you one thing to remember. It's an email address. And this, what's happening, and I'll tell you why you wouldn't need the email address. There's a special election in Florida for a House member. The Vermont Democrats are organizing some call sessions over the next 2 weekends. If you're in down here, we can do something remotely, but it's for that's a House seat. As we know, every House seat counts. It's a special election on April 1st. And if you want to help and try to make a difference with that, you want to just email me at info, we all know info, at, and here comes the hard part, VT, as in Vermont, Democrats. So info at vtdemocrats.org. Do we think we can remember that?
Yes.
Does anyone here want to help make a difference?
Yes.
All right, okay. All right, thank you, and stay tuned for more adventures with Lachlan this year. We're organizing. We'd love to see you all come join our town committees and help build our community and make a difference. Thank you.
All right. And last but most certainly not least, a big thank you for coming down from Montpelier or Bradford, wherever you Bradford. All right. So our wonderful Secretary of State, I would say the best in the country, and Sarah Copeland Hanses.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Windham County, how are we doing? How are we feeling?
We're mad. We're not going to take it anymore.
We're mad and we're not going to take it anymore. I like that answer. But what I also like is I like seeing all of these smiling faces. Because I don't know about you, but 2025 has been wave after wave after wave of terrible news. The hits just keep coming. It's hard to stay tuned in to what we're hearing happening across this country, what we're hearing happening to our fellow countrymen and to people who came here, as Nikhil talked about, to make a better life for themselves. It's hard. It's hard on my heart. I don't know how you're feeling. But what we're doing right here, right now, what you're doing by the fact that you made a sign and you carried it with you and you brought it down here, is we're coming together in community to stand up and say no. No more. No more. No more. And this is going to be the work that we do. And I hope you have more cardboard. And I hope that you have some more political lawn signs that you can paint over and make into another sign for another march on another day. Because we're going to be doing this. And yes, we're probably going to be doing this for 4 years, but I want to shorten that time frame a lot. Yes. We just heard about a special election that you can get involved in to help, that's coming up just at the end of this month. 2026 is basically tomorrow, and there are a lot of places in this country where people are ready to stand up and say no more. And so the work that you're doing here, connecting with each other, sharing your hopes and your dreams, sharing your beliefs that when injustice becomes law, then resistance becomes duty. These are the ideas that we need to take out and share with our fellow Americans. Because 2026 is a time when we can pull the emergency brake on this chaos train of an administration. And we need to be ready to help. So rest when you need to rest. Find joy where you can find joy. Whether it's planting a garden, or welcoming a new neighbor,
supporting immigrants,
helping someone who is having a hard time in the world. Find the joy that you need to find. Rest when you need to rest, because we've got a big fight ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to being in that fight with all of you. Thank you for coming out tonight.
All right, that concludes our speaking program that we had planned. Thank you all for coming. If anyone, we want to like wave signs in the street, and, wave like this at my grumpy old men, that's our opportunity to do it. So thank you all so much again for coming. I really appreciate it.